Welcome to the Red Story, and just subscribe so I understand that everything is not in vain. Husband sent a box to his cheating wife and her affair partner during the act, causing them to panic. I really apologize, Mr. Dupont. It's tough for me to deliver bad news to people like you, said Jacques Laurent as he gave him the envelope. Inside, there was a detailed report of what my wife had been doing with her ex-boss, Henry Dubois. The envelope also had a bunch of photos and a DVD in it. I checked out the photos but hadn't watched the DVD yet. Part of me was hesitant, but I understood it was important to face what Jacques had discovered. Any clue about how long this has been happening? I inquired. Jacques referred back to his initial report to give me an answer. Based on the evidence we found, it's been at least 10 years, Jacques explained. It might even be up to 12 years. It looks like it began around the time your wife was up for the top position. That was roughly a year after our daughter, Sophie, came into the world. Despite this, I realized I had to get DNA tests to check if the children were biologically mine. Then another concern hit me. What about the risk of STDs? The investigation revealed that Henry had been involved with many married women besides Claire. Considering Claire and I had been together after she stopped working, I wondered what diseases she could have passed on to me over the years. It was clear I needed to get medical tests done quickly. Glancing over the report again, I couldn't help but scoff at Jacques' observation that Claire seemed unaware of what her lover was up to when he wasn't with her. Just so you know, Mr. Dupont, Henry said he never meant to break up your marriage, Jacques informed me, and they never did anything at your place. I had Jacques install cameras and mix in our house when I hired him. At least our bedroom hadn't been tainted with Henry's presence, I thought. Thanks for telling me, Mr. Laurent, I replied. I had met Henry Dubois a few times and I didn't care for him much. Sure, he was good-looking, but he was also rude and had a smirk that rubbed me the wrong way. I had to stop myself from wiping that smirk off his face more than once. Now I knew the reason behind his smugness. There's more, Mr. Dupont, Jacques continued. According to what we observed and heard, Henry's sister, Nathalie, has known about their affair from the start. It seems she might have even helped them. That saddened me a bit, as I always thought Nathalie was a decent person, the total opposite of her brother. Man, I murmured quietly. So have you talked to a lawyer yet? Jacques inquired. Not yet, I replied. I want to get the facts straight first. Well, I do a lot of work for Anne Mercier. She's top-notch in my book, especially when it comes to dealing with cheaters. If you're interested, I can shoot this over to her office and give her a heads up that you'll be dropping by, Jacques offered. That'd be great, I said. Thanks. I'll reach out to her office and set up a meeting. Jacques handed me his business card and I tucked it into my pocket. Mind if I give you some advice? Jacques asked. I nodded. Let Anne handle this. I know you're hurting right now and you might feel like lashing out, but don't. It's not worth landing yourself in trouble. This isn't just some online story, it's real life, and you've got 2 kids to think about, he advised. I get it. Thanks, I said. I settled my bill and left his office, feeling like my entire marriage had been a sham. Even though I knew Jacques was right, the pain was still intense. I sat in my car and cried for about 15 minutes. Once I composed myself, I took out the business card he gave me and dialed the law offices of Anne Mercier to schedule an appointment for the next day. Anne provided me with a checklist of documents to bring, mainly financial statements. On the way home, I stopped at a convenience store and bought a pack of cigarettes, something I hadn't done since college. Then I headed to a bar and attempted to drown my sorrows in a beer. I'm not much of a drinker, but I figured I deserved it just this once. You doing okay, buddy? The bartender asked as I took a drag from my cigarette. I glanced up at him before responding. Can you tell? I replied. Unfortunately, he said, offering a small grin. Let me guess, just found out your wife's been unfaithful. Spot on. I nodded. For a good 12 years. Can you believe it? Believe it or not, I can, he replied. Seen and heard it all since I started working here. No doubt, I agreed. He chuckled softly. Mind if I share something my grandpa used to say? He asked. Go ahead, I encouraged. He'd say I felt bad because I had no shoes. Then I met a guy with no feet. I know you're hurting now, been there myself, but it does get better. And trust me, there's folks out there who've had it way worse than you, he shared. Your grandpa sounds like a wise man, I remarked. He sure was, the bartender affirmed. Finish your beer, then head on home, son. Handle your business. Do what he's doing. You won't find any answers at the bottom of that glass. Believe me on that. I grinned and nodded in agreement. Deep down, I knew the seasoned bartender was speaking the truth. As I sipped my beer, I pondered. Never would have thought Claire would cheat on me. Over the years, there were small signs, nothing conclusive alone, but when I pieced it all together, it made sense to me. Take, for instance, after our second kid, Sophie was born, I got a vasectomy. Claire went back on birth control, which struck me as odd. I asked her about it. Why use birth control when I'd already taken care of things? She gave me a story about being extra cautious and how the pills regulated her period. Not being an expert, I bought it. Then, when she landed that job and started traveling with Henry, I noticed her attire wasn't exactly businesslike. She hinted that entertaining might be a big part of her new role. When I asked her about it, it became clear to me that she was entertaining Henry. It seemed like a significant aspect of her new job, pun intended. I would often call her in the evenings when she was away. I found it odd that she was always in her room when I called, but there were moments when I thought I heard a man's voice nearby. Sometimes I heard Claire's voice break as she spoke. At the time, I couldn't explain it, but if Henry was touching her or having closeness with her, while she talked to me on the phone, that would make sense. There were occasions when I noticed the faint scent of Henry's aftershave on Claire's clothes when she returned home. I recognized it because I smelled it on him every time we met, and it made me almost sick. I could only imagine that happening if she was in close contact with him. Then there were the Friday afternoons she supposedly worked after retiring. My special skills are still needed, so they've kept me on for one afternoon a week, though I might have to travel sometimes, she explained when I inquired. It's just business, she added. Now I realized her special skills involved more intimate activities, and it was far from just business. To make matters worse, her one afternoon a week turned into 2 or even 3, and she often didn't get home until 9 or 10 p.m. Her occasional trips increased from once a month to 2 or 3 times, often spanning the entire weekend. So much for retirement. All of this unfolded in just the past 4 months. Claire's behavior towards me hadn't changed at all. She was still just as kind and affectionate as she was when we first got married. She seemed to enjoy spending time with the kids and me at home, which was a welcome relief because I had taken on most of the childcare duties due to her hectic schedule. I've been grappling with this issue for a while now, so I decided to hire Jacques' investigative firm to look into what Claire's been up to. And now my worst suspicions have been confirmed. The only thing left to figure out is how to divide everything. If it had been a one-time mistake made under the influence, I might have been able to forgive and move on. Sure, I would have been angry, but it wouldn't have been a deal-breaker. But this was a deliberate, ongoing betrayal that lasted over a decade. And now it was time for someone to be held accountable. I stubbed out my cigarette, finished my beer, and left, leaving the bartender a nod and a generous tip for his time. When I got home, I noticed Claire's car in the garage. Frankly, I was surprised to see her there. I closed the garage door and went inside, taking off my jacket and heading for my home office. Claire caught me on the way and immediately noticed the smell of cigarettes and beer. "You've been smoking," she said, her brows furrowed. "And I smell beer. Is everything okay, Pierre?" "No, to be honest, it's not. Today has been one of the worst days of my life," I replied. "What happened?" "Did something terrible happen?" she asked, seeming genuinely concerned, though I couldn't help but wonder if it was genuine. "Something," I replied. "I'm going to spend the evening in my office. I don't think I'll be good company tonight. Is there anything I can do, sweetheart?" she asked. "Yeah, I've thought. Undo what you've done." "Afraid there's nothing you can do," I said. "By the way, Pierre, I'll be away this weekend starting Friday," she mentioned. It was only Tuesday and she's already telling me she's leaving for another weekend. "Again, didn't you just go on a weekend trip?" I questioned. "Yes, but something came up," she explained. "It's just business, you know." "I see," I replied sarcastically. "What about Sophie's birthday party? It's this Saturday." "I know," she acknowledged, "but I can't avoid this." "Could you please explain to her why I won't be there, please?" "I'm not covering for you anymore," I told her firmly. "You missed Aaron's birthday and our anniversary last year. You can explain to our daughter why you'd rather be on a trip with Henry than celebrating her birthday here." Claire wasn't pleased with my response and let out a heavy sigh before speaking. "Pierre, please, you're being unreasonable," she protested. "No, Claire," I persisted. "You supposedly retired months ago after your company was sold, but you've been away so much that I can't help but wonder what's really going on. Is there something you want to tell me? What are you implying? Are you accusing me of having an affair?" She retorted defensively. "How would you feel if the roles were reversed?" I countered. She seemed to ease up a bit after that. "I see your point," she conceded, "but trust me, it's just business." "That's what you keep saying," I responded. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I have things to do. Please don't interrupt me. You'll have to take care of the kids tonight." I retreated into my home office, shutting and locking the door. I heard Claire attempt to open it. "Pierre," she called out. "Please, Pierre, talk to me." "Leave me alone, Claire," I gritted through my teeth. "I'm busy." I heard her walk away and began gathering the information Anne had requested. Then I turned to the evidence Jacques had provided. As I read the report, it was hard to believe this was the woman I had loved and supported for the past 12 years. I put on my headphones and started the DVD. Unless you've been in my shoes, you can't understand the mix of emotions. When you see the person you love giving themselves to someone else willingly, I didn't care how Jacques got those videos. All I knew was that any love I once had for Claire was now gone. As I watched her with Henry on the screen, I swore to myself that I would never touch her again. I listened to their conversation. "Are we still meeting up this weekend?" Henry asked as he held her. "Of course," Claire replied with a smile. "You know I can't go too long without having you inside me." "What about your daughter's birthday party? Isn't that this weekend?" he inquired. "Yes, but Pierre will handle it," she said. "He's better with the kids than I am. Besides, if I have to choose between dealing with a bunch of bratty girls or being here with you, I'd rather be with you." "You know I enjoy having you here, Claire, but I'm worried he might start getting suspicious," Henry expressed. "You're supposed to be retired, remember?" "I've told you, Henry, retired or not, I'm not giving up our thing," she replied, caressing him. "I love my family and Pierre, but what we shared these last 12 years means everything to me." "I'm glad to hear that," Henry responded. "Remember when we started this, you said you'd choose Pierre and your kids if you had to. Do you still feel that way?" "I honestly don't know," she admitted. "It's never come up. I don't know how you've kept him in the dark all this time," Henry mused. "If he ever finds out, it won't be pretty. He wasn't easy at first, but I've learned to keep my business life separate," she explained. "I've never denied him anything and I treat him well. If he finds out, I'll just threaten him in the divorce." "It might not be that simple," Henry warned. "But if things go south, you can stay here if you want. I like having you around." "Thanks, Henry. I'm grateful for that, but I don't think anything will happen. He hasn't caught on in 12 years, and I doubt he ever will." "How long do you plan to keep this going?" he asked. "As long as I can, maybe for the rest of my life," she declared. I thought to myself, maybe you'll get your wish. As I closed the video, I stashed the DV back in my briefcase and heard Claire knock on the office door. "What?" I responded. "The kids are going to bed," she informed me. "Can you at least come out and say goodnight to them?" "Yeah, just a sec," I replied. I shut down my computer, went upstairs, and tucked the children in, trying to smile. Sophie gave me a funny look. "Are you okay, Dad?" she asked. "Yeah," I assured her with a smile. "I'm fine. Go to sleep now, sweetheart. I love you." "I love you too," she said, kissing me. After leaving her room, I went downstairs and grabbed a cup of coffee. "I kept some food warm for you, Pierre," Claire mentioned. "I'm not hungry," I replied. Stepping out back, I sat in a deck chair on the patio and lit a cigarette. Claire joined me a couple of minutes later. She tried to kiss me, but I turned my head. So she kissed my cheek. There was no way I was going to kiss the lips that had been on Henry Dubois' tool. She looked at me surprised. "Tell me what's on your mind, Pierre, please. You seem really troubled," she said, her expression filled with concern. "This isn't like you at all, and you know I don't like seeing you smoke. You quit back in college." "Yeah. Well, life doesn't always go our way, does it?" I retorted. "What do you mean by that?" she inquired. I just shook my head, remaining silent. "Pierre, please open up to me. I love you. You can tell me anything," she implored. I glanced at her through the smoke and shook my head. "It's too late for that now," I confessed. "Too late for what?" "I don't understand," she pressed. "You're savvy in business," I stated. "You can figure it out. Now please give me some space. I need to sort things out. But maybe I can help if you let me in," she pleaded. "Claire, please, I need you to respect my space," I said, my frustration evident. I softened my tone a bit, realizing I might be giving too much away. "Sorry for snapping. Work's been rough, and it's really weighing on me. Maybe in a couple of days." It felt wrong lying to her, but I reasoned, why not? It's fair to lie to a liar, right? "All right," she replied quietly, tears streaming down her face. Then she hurried inside, sobbing. I smoked 2 more cigarettes before heading indoors. I took a shower to wash away the smoke smell, put on some pajamas I rarely wore, and got into bed. Claire lay on her side, reaching out to me under the covers. I pushed her hand away, refusing her advances for the first time in our marriage. "Pierre," she started. I turned away, declining to give her a goodnight kiss. "Good night, Claire," I muttered. She turned away, crying. At that moment, I didn't care. As far as I was concerned, she could go straight to hell. The next morning, I got up, took a shower, got dressed, and packed my things for work. I spent some time with the kids before they headed off to school, then left the house without acknowledging Claire. She gave me a strange look as I headed out the door. "Don't I get a goodbye kiss anymore?" she asked as I opened the door. "Sorry," I replied, blowing her a kiss. "I love you." "I love you too," she said. "Yeah, same here," I muttered as I walked out. At the office, I tried to focus on work, but it was tough. I briefed my boss on the situation, and he sympathized, having gone through a divorce himself. "Do what you need to do," he said. "If you need time off, just let me know." I thanked him and got back to work, leaving early for my meeting with Anne. "Good afternoon, Mr. DuPont," she greeted me as I entered her office. Anne Mercier seemed to be around my age with long blonde hair. I noticed the rings on her finger and assumed she was married. "Please call me Pierre," I said, shaking her hand. "And you can call me Anne," she replied. "I've reviewed the report Mr. Lawrence sent over. I'm sorry you're going through this. It's a common issue I deal with, but it's always distressing." "How are you holding up?" "I'm not doing too well, honestly," I admitted. "I understand," she sympathized. "Have you talked to her about it yet?" "Not yet, but I wasn't very nice to her last night," I confessed. "I recommend trying to keep things civil for now. I know it's tough, given what you know. But it's best not to let on that you're aware. Let her carry on as usual. She'll realize when she's served with the divorce papers. Can you handle that?" "You're right. It'll be tough, really tough," I acknowledged. "But I'll do my best." "Good," Anne nodded. "Now, what are your goals for this divorce?" "I want to get as much as I can," I asserted, "especially custody of the kids if they're actually mine." "You do know that mothers usually get custody, right?" she pointed out. "I've been their main caregiver for the past decade," I countered, and she admitted on the video that I'm a better parent than her. Her choice to be with her lover instead of her daughter on her birthday should count for something. "It does, and we can use that," Anne agreed. She reviewed the financial documents I provided, jotting down notes. "It seems your wife got a hefty sum from the company sale. The monthly dividends she's receiving match your salary. This works in our favor. So does that mean no spousal support?" I inquired. "Or very little," Anne confirmed. "She's still young and capable of working. Plus, if we secure custody for you, we might be able to get child support from her." "What about the house?" I asked. "If we manage to secure custody for you, you can continue living in the house, and we can request that she covers half of the mortgage. But there's a chance the court might grant her custody. In that case, you'd have to cover half of the mortgage along with child support," she explained. "The only other option would be to sell the house and split the proceeds between the two of you." "What about our retirement and bank accounts?" I inquired. "We can simplify things by leaving retirement accounts out of the equation. You both keep your 401s. Everything else will be divided equally, which is typically what a judge would order," she clarified. "What about Henry Dubois? Can I take legal action against him for alienation of affection?" I questioned. "Not in this state," she replied, "but we will include him in the divorce proceedings. There might be grounds for suing him for intentional infliction of emotional distress, but it's unlikely to go far, especially in this state." "And what about his sister, Nathalie? She was aware of the situation the entire time, possibly even facilitated it," I added. "It's a similar situation with her." "We can file if you wish," Anne responded. "Yes, please proceed." "When can you file all of this?" I inquired. "I believe we can have it done by Friday," she assured. "I'd like her to be served late Saturday afternoon. She'll be away for the weekend with Henry," I explained. "I understand." A bit of shock and awe. "We can arrange that," she acknowledged. "But there will be an additional cost for the process server to work on Saturday." "That's fine. Let's proceed with it," I agreed. "Okay, Pierre," she concluded. We concluded the meeting with a handshake. After issuing me the customary warning not to do anything rash, she accepted my retainer check. I left her office feeling more confident about the situation. When I got home, I noticed Claire's car in the garage, which surprised me since it was Wednesday. I assumed she'd be at work, feeling the warmth of the hood it seemed she had driven recently. Inside, the smell of pot roast greeted me. "Hey, sweetheart," Claire greeted from the kitchen. "Back early? Everything okay?" "Yeah," I replied. "Hope you're feeling better than yesterday," she said. "A bit. I'm getting things sorted," I assured. "Good. Hungry for dinner?" she asked. "I made pot roast, your favorite. I'll have a bit," I accepted. "Smells great. Did you go to the office?" "Yeah, a couple of hours," she replied, "prepping for the weekend." "Did you talk to Sophie?" I inquired. "Yeah, she's not thrilled, but she'll cope," Claire said. "Where are the kids?" I wondered. "In their rooms doing homework," she informed. "So still planning that trip with Henry?" I pressed. "Yes, business," she stated. "When do you plan to retire for real?" I questioned. "I'm retired now and just need to for a while," she clarified. "Not sure how long." "Seems like you're almost full-time already," I remarked. "Guess you gotta do what you gotta do." "What's that mean?" she probed. "With all the time you're giving them, you might as well be on payroll," I pointed out. "Why? I'm making more now," she defended. I put my briefcase away and changed, complimenting her cooking. I remembered her skills I'd missed when we split. After spending time with the kids, I locked myself in my office. Claire tried to enter, then knocked when she realized it was locked. I cracked the door open to see her face. "Pierre," she asked, "are you bunking in here tonight?" "I think so," I replied. "Still got a bunch to go through, and I'm feeling a bit under the weather." Don't want to risk getting you sick right before your trip, so I'll crash on the Fuden in here. Oh, all right, she said. Take care, Pierre, please. I love you. Yeah, staying here, I responded, shutting the door. As she walked away, I got on my computer and started to search. After finding what I needed, I filled out a form and checked my email for confirmation. Noting the phone number, I set a reminder on my phone to call the next day and confirm everything. Thursday rolled around pretty much like Wednesday, except Claire tried to lure me to bed with a sheer nightgown that left nothing to the imagination. Despite her appeal, knowing what she'd been up to with Henry ended any attraction I had. Sorry, Claire. Got a bad migraine, I murmured, going to take something and crash here in the office. A tear rolled down her cheek as she walked off, but I couldn't care less. The next day at noon, she called to say she was off. Hope you're feeling better, Pierre, she said. Maybe we'll reconnect when I'm back Monday. Parents will pick up the kids today and drop them off tomorrow for Sophie's party. Thanks for the heads up, I replied. I love you, Pierre, she said. I hope you believe that. Yeah, I said. Have a safe trip. See you later. Goodbye, Claire. After hanging up, I called Anne. Paperwork's getting filed now, Pierre, I said. Have a safe trip. See you later. Goodbye, Claire. After hanging up, I called Anne. Paperwork's getting filed now, Pierre, she informed. They'll be served tomorrow at 5.30 at Henry's, just like you wanted. Natalie will get hers on Monday. Thanks, Anne, I said, ending the call. I told my assistant I was done for the day, locked up, and headed home. Lots to do before the movers arrived that afternoon. I had a stack of boxes ready in the garage for the day's work. At 5 p.m., the movers showed up with their truck just as I finished packing everything. While they loaded up, I worked on altering Claire's wedding dress. After I was done, I put the ashes in a paper bag, sealed it with a note, my wedding ring, and our torn marriage certificate inside an envelope, and handed it to one of the movers. I asked them to deliver it to Claire at Henry's house the next day at 5:30 p.m., along with two $50 bills as tips. I'll make sure this gets to her, the young man assured me. Thanks, I replied. Later, I heated up some leftover pot roasts and ate in the living room while watching TV. I slept well in the master bed that night. The next day at noon, Claire's parents arrived with the kids. I'd been up early preparing for Sophie's birthday party in the backyard set to start around 3 p.m. Claire had ordered a cake, which I picked up earlier and stored in the fridge. You've been busy, Claire's mom remarked when she walked in. I didn't have much choice, I replied. Hopefully everything goes smoothly. The kids will enjoy it, she reassured. Sophie mentioned Claire wouldn't be here. Yes, she did, Claire's mom confirmed. I can't believe she'd miss her own daughter's birthday. She paused, looking at me intently. Is everything all right between you two? No, it's not, I admitted. I hate to break it to you, but you'll find out soon enough. I'm divorcing Claire. What? Her dad exclaimed. Why? I found out she's been having an affair with her boss for the last 12 years, I disclosed. In fact, that's where she is right now. Oh my God, her mom gasped. Are you sure about this? I've had my suspicions for a while, especially after Claire's so-called retirement, I explained. About a month ago, I hired an investigator to dig deeper. I got a detailed report, photos, and even video evidence if you're curious. No need for that, she declined. And you're certain you can forgive her? Absolutely, I affirmed. Not after all. This time. I'd like to see that report, George chimed in. I can't believe she'd do something so foolish. Well, you handle that. I'll finish up for Sophie's party, Rhonda offered. After thanking Rhonda, I gestured for George to join me in my home office, passing him the written report. He was visibly shocked by the content, shaking his head in disbelief. That foolish woman, he muttered, handing the report back. I'm sorry, Pierre, she's my daughter, but this is hard to swallow. Now you understand my position, I sympathize. What's the plan with this Henry guy, he inquired. I've taken legal action against him and his sister for causing emotional distress, I informed him. He scoffed. That's it, he retorted. After 12 years of stealing your wife, he gets off easy. You know how far that lawsuit will go. I get it, George, I acknowledged. But I have to think about my kids. Ending up in jail won't help anyone. I suppose you're right, he conceded, but based on this report, it seems Henry has a thing for married women. I bet Claire isn't his first target. Probably not, I agreed. Let me handle this jerk, George suggested. He ain't worth you going to jail for. He ain't worth it, I agreed. Here's an idea, Pierre, George proposed. Let me handle that jerk. I won't let you risk going to jail over him, I assured him. No need to fret, son, George reassured me. Nobody's getting locked up. George was a burly man used to physical work. I met some of his Keio workers, equally imposing figures who watched out for each other. What's your plan? I inquired, The less you know, the better, George replied with a wink and grin. All right, if you say so, I agreed. He grinned and gave my shoulder a hearty slap. Come on, Pierre. Let's go enjoy some time with the kids, he suggested. We headed outside to find Rhonda had everything set up for Sophie's party. When Sophie came down, her eyes lit up at the sight. Thanks, Daddy, she beamed, hugging me. This is awesome. I wish Mom could see it. Me too, I admitted. Well, we'll take plenty of pictures for her, okay? Okay, she agreed. I fired up the grill, cooking burgers and hot dogs for everyone. Around 4:30 p.m., the doorbell rang, signaling the beginning of the festivities. Over the next half hour, Sophie's friends arrived with their parents, all eager to join the fun. Among the last to arrive were Nathalie and her husband, Emile, with their daughter, Amélie. After welcoming them inside, I directed Amélie to the backyard, where the party was in full swing, offering Nathalie and Emile drinks. I made conversation. I'm surprised to see you here, Nathalie. Wasn't there a big business trip planned? I asked. That's Claire and Henry's gig, she clarified. I'm just providing support at the office. I see, I replied. Is everything okay between you and Claire? Nathalie inquired. Why do you ask? I countered. You're not wearing your wedding ring, she observed. I glanced at my finger, realizing the absence of my ring. We returned it to her. I disclosed. Maybe Henry will have better luck keeping her loyal than I did. What's that supposed to mean? Nathalie pressed. Come on, Nathalie, I objected. Don't sugarcoat it. I know your brother's been seeing Claire for over a decade. You both did a great job of fooling me all this time. Pierre, please. Claire still cares about you, Nathalie insisted. Yeah, so much that she kept lying to me for 12 years. I feel so cherished right now, I retorted sarcastically. What's your plan? Nathalie inquired. What do you think? I'm kicking her to the curb. She and Henry will be served soon, I replied, glancing at my watch. Served? Nathalie questioned. Yes, Claire's getting divorce papers, and I'm taking Henry to court. He'll be served on Monday, I informed her. Me? Why are you suing me? I haven't done anything, Nathalie protested. Exactly. I shot back. You knew what they were up to for years. My investigator even thinks you might have helped, and all the while you acted like my friend. You could have spoken up, but you didn't. How many times have you sat in my home, eaten my food, knowing what Claire was doing with your brother? Did you enjoy making me a fool? Now my family's torn apart, and you're partly responsible. Because of you three, I'll never trust another woman again, and my kids lost their mother. I hope you're satisfied. I'm not happy about this, Pierre, Nathalie insisted. I'm sorry. Sorry is not enough, Nathalie, I countered. You all conspired to wreck my family for 12 years. You didn't care how it hurt me or my kids, and now you succeeded. That's not how it went down, Nathalie defended. Really? Was it just business between you? I challenged. At first, yes, she admitted. It was Henry's idea. Claire went along because she wanted the job, but she wasn't happy. Things changed over time. So even after she sold her company and said she retired, I queried that was all her decision, Nathalie clarified. I thought it would stop, but Claire kept it going. Then she made a bad choice, I remarked. But you still played a part. I'm really sorry about that, Pierre, Nathalie apologized. None of us meant to hurt you. But you did, I stated. In the worst way possible. It's best if you gather your family and leave my house, Nathalie. She nodded in understanding. I get it, Pierre, she responded softly before heading out. Oh, and Nathalie, I called after her. She turned back to me. Don't ever come back. She wiped away a tear and left to find Amélie and Emile. Claire and Henry were lying naked in bed when her phone buzzed, signaling a new message. Assuming it was Pierre sending photos from Sophie's party, she quickly checked it, only to read a text from Nathalie. He's on to us. Oh, damn, she blurted out. What's wrong? Henry asked. It's Nathalie. Pierre knows everything, Claire explained. I should clean up and head home. Is that a good idea? Henry questioned. Yes, Claire affirmed, throwing on a bathrobe and getting out of bed. Just then, the doorbell rang. Who could that be? Henry wondered aloud, peering out the window to see a sedan and a moving truck in the driveway. He hastily put on some clothes and a robe with Claire following behind. Upon opening the door, they were met by a man in a light jacket. What's up? Henry inquired. Are you Henry Dubois? The man asked. Yeah, Henry replied. And is Claire Dupont here too? That's me, Claire confirmed, stepping forward. I'll need to see some ID, the man requested. Why? Henry questioned, reaching for his wallet. The man silently checked Henry's license before handing him an envelope. You've been served, the man informed him. Then turning to Claire, he requested her identification. Sure, Claire complied, retrieving her wallet. After inspecting her license, the man handed her another envelope. You've been served, he stated. and there's a restraining order included. You both must stay at least 500 feet away from Mr. Pierre Dupont, his home, his workplace, and his children's school. Violating this order could lead to your arrest. Have a good day." With that, he departed, leaving Claire and Henry stunned as they exchanged looks. "Excuse me, is Claire Dupont here?" asked another man in jeans and a t-shirt. "Yeah, that's me," Claire replied. The man handed her a paper bag with an envelope attached, leaving her puzzled. "I was told to deliver this to you, ma'am." "I've got some other boxes too," the man explained. "Where should I put them?" Henry and Claire exchanged a look before Henry spoke up. "Just leave them in the front room for now," he instructed. "Thanks, sir," the man said, heading back to the truck. As they watched, the men brought in several boxes and stacked them in the front room as directed. Meanwhile, Claire opened the envelope. Inside there was a man's wedding ring, a note, and her torn-up marriage license. Tears welled up in Claire's eyes as she read the note. "Claire, I've done nothing but love and support you throughout our marriage. Imagine my shock to find out you've been having an affair with Henry Dubois for the past 12 years. This is how you repay my love, by lying and cheating. You always claimed it was just business, but now I see it was much more than that. I hope it was worth it. I suggest you see a lawyer as soon as possible. I've already divided our finances according to the divorce papers and changed the locks on the doors. Since I've been the main caregiver for the kids since you started your affair with Henry, I'm asking for full custody, but I won't deny you visitation. Have your lawyer get in touch with mine to arrange it. Also, since Henry said you could stay with him, I've sent all your stuff to his place. If there's anything else you want from the house, have your lawyer talk to mine, and we'll sort it out. I don't want to see you or hear your lies anymore. Please stay away from me and the kids. If you try to reach out, I'll enforce the restraining order. Don't make the divorce harder than it needs to be. I don't want it to get ugly, especially for the kids, but I will if you push it. Just so you know, I have evidence from a private investigator who's been watching you for the past month. I haven't told the kids why we're divorcing yet, but I will when the time is right. Your parents know some of what's going on, but not all of it. It's time to do the right thing and end this fake marriage. As of now, Claire, you mean nothing to me. Goodbye, signed Pierre. Tears streamed down Claire's face as she opened the paper bag and found the ashes of her wedding gown, the same one she wore when she married Pierre. She collapsed on the floor, crying. Henry held her and read the letter. "That jerk," he said. "I'll confront him for this." "No, Henry, please don't. I don't want you getting into trouble because of me." "This is my mess," she said. "What did you get?" Henry asked. "He's suing me for causing him emotional distress," Henry said. "He's asking for $5 million. I'll talk to my lawyer to see what we can do about all this." "I wonder if he's going after Nathalie too," Claire said. "Let's find out," Henry said, dialing his phone. "If he is, we need to meet and figure out how to handle this mess." After the birthday bash ended, I thanked everyone for joining and for the presents. Looking around at the chaos, I knew cleanup would keep me busy for a while. Sophie approached, tears welling up. "What's wrong, honey?" I asked, embracing her. "I just wish Mom could have been here," she sniffled. "I miss her." "Yeah, me too," I sighed. But she had other plans. Sophie's expression turned sad. "Are you and Mom splitting up?" she asked, tears streaming down her cheeks. I didn't want to spoil her day, but I knew the talk was inevitable. "We'll discuss it later." "All right." "Is it because of that guy, Henry?" Aaron chimed in. "Why do you think that?" I probed. "I heard Mom chatting with him on the phone a bunch," we shared. "It was intriguing, but I decided to leave it there for now. Let's leave it for tomorrow," I stated firmly. "Today is all about Sophie's celebration. Right now, I need your help to tidy up, okay?" "Sure thing, Dad," Aaron nodded. I hugged Sophie once more and planted a kiss on her cheek. "Everything will be okay," I assured her, wiping her tears. "I love you." "I love you too, Daddy," she whispered. Rhonda and George pitched in to tidy up. "Pierre, you going to be all right?" Rhonda asked before they left. "I'll manage," I replied. "Thanks for lending a hand." "Anytime," she said. "If you need anything, just say the word." "I appreciate it," I acknowledged. Rhonda hugged me and George shook my hand. "Take care, son," he said. After they drove off, I locked up and headed upstairs, crashing into bed almost instantly. The following day, I woke up and tackled my usual Sunday chores after fixing breakfast for us three. While I mowed the lawn, Aaron handled the edging. After wrapping up, we tidied everything and put it away. When it was time for lunch, I headed in, showered, and was surprised to find Sophie preparing sandwiches. We sat at the table to eat, then cleared our plates. Sophie looked at me expectantly. "Okay, Dad," she began. "What's the deal?" I knew this chat was inevitable, so I led the kids to the living room, and we sat down. There's no easy way to say this, so here it is. I started. "I'm splitting up with your mom." The news landed without much reaction from the kids, which surprised me. I had expected more emotion. Mom's been seeing that Henry guy, huh? Aaron piped up. Yeah, I confirmed, my voice low. I had a feeling, Aaron added. Bet it's been a long time, right? Why do you say that? I questioned him. Just how she talks to him, he explained. I've overheard her on the phone. She talks to him like she talks to you, Dad. It made sense. I hadn't picked up on it earlier, probably because I always trusted her and respected her privacy. Listening in on her calls with Henry or anyone else never crossed my mind. So how long has this been going on, Dad? Sophie inquired. About 12 years, sweetheart, I replied. Sophie gasped. That's almost since I was born, she realized. Pretty much, I affirmed. Damn, Sophie muttered. Sorry, Dad, she added quickly, sensing her language might not be appropriate. Understanding her frustration, I let it slide. Can I stick with you? She asked. Absolutely, if that's what you want, I assured her. Me too, Dad, Aaron chimed in. You've always been there for us. Thank you, guys. That means the world to me, I expressed. Actually, I requested custody of you both, I revealed. I opened my arms and they both hugged me tightly. It filled me with immense joy knowing my kids wanted to be with me. After a heartfelt embrace, we carried on with the day, though sadness lingered in the house. The following days passed without any trouble. George and Rhonda kindly picked up the kids after school and stayed until I returned from work. I felt bad for inconveniencing them, but they were understanding and happy to assist. Rhonda even took charge of dinner, easing my load. On Tuesday, my lawyer, Anne, called. Claire had consulted with her own lawyer and expressed a desire to see the kids. I was hesitant to have her over, fearing she might do something rash like take them away. What about the restraining order? I inquired. If you agree, we could temporarily suspend it from 9 p.m. Friday night to 9 a.m. Sunday morning, Anne proposed. It's tough, but appearing reasonable is key. Got it. How about she visits them at her folks' place on Saturday? I suggested. I can drop them off Friday after school and pick them up either Saturday night or Sunday. I'll propose that and see what her lawyer says, Anne agreed. No way should Henry or Nathalie be there, I emphasized, and the kids might not want to see her. They're not too happy with her right now. I'll relay that, Anne assured. Anything else? I inquired. Yes, her lawyer wants the full PI report, Anne informed me. I compiled it and sent it off. She should have it by Thursday at the latest. So she's lawyered up, I confirmed. Claire hired Veronique Lefevre on Monday, Anne informed me. I'm surprised Veronique took the case given her strong feelings against cheaters. My guess is she did it because she works at the same firm as Henry's lawyer. Anyway, I'll chat with Veronique and see how it goes. I'll keep you posted. The following day, Anne got back to me. Claire and her lawyer agreed to my terms with the condition that I suspend the restraining order for 36 hours from midnight Saturday to noon Sunday. It would only apply to Claire, not Henry or Nathalie. They also settled on Claire visiting the kids at her parents' house and not taking them anywhere. If the kids were okay with it, Claire would stay there overnight. I agreed to avoid looking unreasonable to the court. Initially, the kids weren't thrilled, but I convinced them to give it a shot. George and Rhonda agreed to pick them up from school on Friday and return them Sunday afternoon. Though I had my doubts, I trusted them. George even suggested we hit a bar for some sports and beer Saturday night. On Friday morning, I made sure the kids had everything they needed for the weekend. After hugs and kisses, I dropped them off at school, reminding them to call if Henry, Nathalie, or their mom showed up. Once I knew they were safe inside, I headed to work. The next evening, George swung by around 5:30, and we headed to the Flat Stick Pub, a popular sports bar downtown. Over burgers and beers, we caught up while watching the screens. Between bites, George filled me in. Claire showed up around 9 this morning, he said. It was tense at first, but things calmed down. The kids aren't thrilled with her, and they made that clear. Surprisingly, she came clean. That's unexpected, I admitted. She claims she still loves you. I think she's aiming for reconciliation, George said. Are you considering it? Not after all the lies and deceit for 12 years, I replied. I get that. By the way, did you really burn her wedding dress? That thing cost me over $2,000 when you two got married, George asked. Felt like the right move at the time. I chuckled. Her lawyer apparently gave her an earful after going for the PI report, George mentioned. She might be starting to understand your side of things. Too little too late, I replied. George nodded and took a sip of his beer. Suddenly, there was a disturbance behind me. I turned just in time to feel a blow to my head, and stars filled my vision. As I hit the floor, I saw a foot swinging towards me. Dazed but instinctive, I dodged it. Henry's furious voice rang out. I'm going to end you, you jerk. Struggling to my senses, I remember my dad's old self-defense lessons. Summoning all my strength, I hit him hard in the groin. He cried out and stumbled back, hitting a nearby table. Seizing the opportunity, I jumped at him. It was pure rage fueled by the destruction of my marriage and family. There was no finesse or fancy moves, just raw fury. Unbeknownst to me, Henry was already out cold as I continued to rain blows on him. It took George and another guy to pull me off him, but not before I yelled something incoherent. When I came to, I was in a hospital bed with a doctor examining me. My right hand was bandaged and my left arm was in a cast. An IV dripped into my vein and my head throbbed painfully. I think he'll be okay, the doctor reassured someone. He'll have a bad headache for a while, but there's no sign of a concussion. We'll give him some pain relief and let him rest before sending him home. Thanks, Doc, George chimed in. Confused, I glanced at him. He grinned back. Hear that? You're going to make it. I know you're in pain, but you should see the other guy. Word is he's going to lose a testicle, got some teeth knocked out, and almost lost an eyeball. Seems you busted a knuckle on his jaw. That was Henry, right? Yeah, I rasped. How long have I been here? Since last night. It's now 8:30 Sunday morning, George replied. Oh, and there are a couple of big cops outside who want to have a chat with you. Ready for that? Might as well get it done, I muttered. George motioned to the officers and they entered the room. Mr. Dupont, I'm Sergeant Martin and this is Officer Lefebvre. We responded to the incident at the Flat Stick Pub last night. How are you feeling this morning, sir? Martin inquired. Like I got smacked upside the head, I admitted. Martin nodded and checked his notes. What can you tell us about last night? He prompted. Not a whole lot. I was just having a burger and beer with my father-in-law here and suddenly I'm getting hit, I recounted. The guy threatened me, so I had to defend myself. Martin glanced over his notes. That's pretty much what the witnesses said, and the surveillance video backs it up. Do you know the man who attacked you? Martin asked. Yeah, his name's Henry Dubois. I've got a lawsuit against him, and he's part of my divorce proceedings, I explained. Divorce? The sergeant queried. Yeah, I confirmed. Got it, he noted in his pad. So you want to press charges? Yes, definitely. And there's also a restraining order against him, I asserted. All right, we'll look into that. Just so you know, it's probably best if you stay in town for a bit in case we need to talk to you again, Martin advised. No worries, Sergeant, I assured him, raising my hands. He nodded with a smile before they exited the room. Once they were gone, Rhonda, Claire, and the kids entered. Why is she here? I asked, glaring at Claire. My restraining order doesn't kick back in until noon, Claire explained. I thought you'd be with your boyfriend, I remarked. She glanced down, feeling embarrassed. I wanted to see you first, she admitted. Besides, Nathalie's with him, and he's still recovering. I nodded, and the kids clustered around me. Sophie's eyes welled up. Will you be okay, Daddy? She asked. I'll manage, sweetheart, I assured her. I heard you really gave Henry a beating last night. Aaron chimed in with a grin. That's the talk, all right, I acknowledged, glancing at George. But it's nothing to boast about. You catch my drift? Got it, Dad, Aaron affirmed. Are you all right, Pierre? Claire inquired. He'll be fine, Sophie reassured her mother. We'll take good care of him, won't we, Aaron? Yeah, we got this, my son affirmed. Claire glanced at our teenage kids before speaking. If it's okay with you guys, I'd like to chat with your dad alone for a bit, she requested. They glanced over briefly before nodding. Sure thing, Sophie agreed, but we'll be right outside. Come on, Aaron, she urged, reaching for her brother. They exited the room, trailed by George and Rhonda. Pierre, Claire began once we were alone. I can't express how sorry I am about everything. Well, like I told Nathalie last Saturday, sorry doesn't even begin to cover it, I replied. You lied to me and cheated on me for, 12 years, and you think sorry is supposed to make it all right? Was I that terrible of a husband? All I did was love and support you. I don't get it. You were the best husband and father, she said sorrowfully. But even that wasn't enough for you, was it? I countered. It's not like that, she protested. Really, that's how it looks from where I'm standing, I countered. You don't understand, she insisted. Then help me understand, I pressed. At first, it was just a way to secure my job, she explained. Henry made having closeness with me a condition for getting the position. It's illegal. Why didn't you come to me first? We could have taken action. Oh, I see. You wanted that job so badly that you thought sleeping with Henry was a small price to pay, even if it tore our family apart, I remarked. I made a pact with the devil, basically, she admitted. So now you're pointing fingers at the devil, I scoffed. Give me a break. The reality is you craved that job so much you were willing to sleep with him for it, even if it meant losing everything. Remember your old mantra, it's just business. Tell me, Claire, where does tearing our family apart fit into your bottom line? Huh. What I'm curious about is why you kept it going after you supposedly retired. That was my fault, she admitted. I guess I reached a point where I thought I could have it both ways. You have feelings for him, don't you? That's why you kept at it. How long did you plan to keep it up? Forever? Did you really believe I'd never find out, or did you expect me to just accept it once I did? And remember, I know more than you think, I reminded her. Yeah, I started to care for him, she confessed. It was tough not to after all those years. I thought you loved me enough to let me have this. I tried my best not to let it affect you. Are you serious? I exclaimed. Every moment you spent with him took away from us. Surely you recall the concept of opportunity costs, the loss of potential gain from other options when one is chosen. You chose him over your family. Consequently, you lost your family. But I still love you, she insisted. I've never stopped loving you, but you lost respect for me, I countered. She looked stunned. No, never, she protested. Yes, you did, I insisted. That's why you told him you'd be with him for life and threatened to harm me in a divorce. Her eyes widened. You heard that? She gasped. Yes, and more, I affirmed. For instance, you told Henry you'd rather spend time with him than with your own daughter on her birthday. What kind of mother does that? What kind of message does that send to a vulnerable teenager? Did you even think about her or about Aaron when you missed his birthday last year? She flinched at that. I suppose I just fail as a wife and a mother, she murmured softly. That's your interpretation, not mine. But if it applies, I shrugged. Oh, and I'm sure your partner in crime will be relieved to know I can't chase him down for child support. I had DNA tests done and the kids are mine. She stared at me stunned. Wow, you actually thought I'd do that to you, she exclaimed. Well, you lied to me for 12 years, I stated. You schemed and tricked me all that time, hiding your affair. What else would I think? Oh, and you might want to know I have picked up anything from the two of you. You might not realize it, but Henry likes to play the field. You're not his only conquest. I suspected, but I wasn't sure. What's next? She inquired. Sign the papers, Claire. End this fake marriage, then get help and sort yourself out for the kid's sake, I urged. You'll likely have plenty of time. I bet Henry's going to be a resident of the state for a while. You're probably right. She conceded. Okay, I'll sign the papers. I'm sorry, Pierre, for everything. You already said that, I reminded her. I guess I did, huh? Well, thanks for letting me spend time with the kids this weekend, she acknowledged. No problem, I replied. I know you doubt it, but I do love you, she confessed. And I wish you could find a way to forgive me and give us another shot. You're right, I don't buy it, but thanks for saying it, I responded. I suppose a part of me will always care for you too, but it's not enough. I need to trust my partner, and after what you did, I'm not sure if I can trust anyone again. She nodded silently, tears streaming down her face. I understand, she whispered. Goodbye, Pierre. She gave me a kiss on the cheek before leaving the room in tears. George, Rhonda, and the kids entered afterward. Everything okay, son? George inquired. Yeah, I replied. We talked it out. I think she finally gets how badly she messed up. So does that mean you and Mom are getting back together? Sophie asked. I shook my head. No, honey, I said. But you still love each other, she insisted. It takes more than just love to make a marriage last, Sophie, I explained. Trust is just as important, and right now, I don't trust her. Someday you'll understand this yourself. After a final checkup from the doctor, I was released. George drove me home with the kids. Later that night, I received a frantic call from George and Claire. Nathalie informed them that Claire took too many sleeping pills and drinking alcohol. Nathalie discovered her unconscious at Henry's place while retrieving some of his belongings. A note on her nightstand simply said, I'm sorry. Though she nearly passed, Claire survived and spent a couple of days in the hospital. Following evaluation by mental health professionals, she was placed under George and Rhonda's care, eventually moving back in with them. She signed the divorce papers without contesting anything, and informed me that I would be officially divorced in 90 days. Free? Yeah, right. Henry and Nathalie's attorney swiftly settled with us for half of what I initially demanded. This left me with about $3.5 million after attorney fees. I allocated $1 million each for the kids' college funds and saved the rest. I began planning a Mediterranean cruise for them during their next summer vacation. Henry was convicted of aggravated assault, battery, and attempted ending based on video evidence. He received a 10-year sentence in state prison, but could be eligible for parole in around 8.5 years. Whenever I visited George and Rhonda's place with the kids, I'd see Claire. Sometimes we chat for a bit, but I couldn't shake off what she'd done. She was seeing a counselor to figure out her actions, still holding on to hope that I'd take her back. I was glad she was seeking help, but it felt like too late. Over time, she slowly reconnected with the kids, which was a relief. George mentioned she spent most of her time writing for business blogs and wasn't interested in dating. She was disappointed to hear about the Mediterranean cruise I planned with the kids, but she handled it gracefully, wishing us the best. The kids often sent her messages with photos from our travels. During the cruise, I met Marie, a charming woman from Quebec, also on a post-divorce trip. She was a bit younger than Claire, with blonde hair and a cheerful demeanor. I enjoyed her habit of ending sentences with A. She got 2 kids, a bit younger than mine, spending summer with her grandparents in Montreal. We spent a lot of time together, sharing our stories and even sharing a bed a few times. Sophie teased me about having a girlfriend. We exchanged contact info when the cruise ended, promising to keep in touch through email and Skype. Though I'm not sure where it will lead, we chat online at least twice a week. Life at home adjusted without Claire. My boss was flexible, allowing me to manage taking the kids to school and picking them up. I knew Aaron would soon be old enough to drive and take over that responsibility. After our return from the cruise, George delivered some troubling news. "They're putting Claire in a mental hospital," he said. "Why?" I asked. "Sophie sent her a photo of us dining with that Canadian lady from your cruise," he explained. "Claire didn't take it well. She tried to end herself." "I can't believe it," I said. "I'm really sorry to hear that." It was genuine sympathy, but there was a small part of me that felt a sense of justice. Now Claire had a taste of the pain I went through when I found out about her and Henry. "Yeah, it's tough. Thankfully, she messed it up and survived, but the docs say she needs constant care," George explained. "Rhonda and I can't keep up with it 24/7, so they decided she needs to be in a care facility." "How long do they think she'll be there?" I inquired. "It's uncertain, son. Could be a few years, or it might be permanent," George replied. "We're just taking it one day at a time. If you need anything, just let me know," I offered. "Thanks, son. I appreciate that," George said. Marie and I kept up our long-distance relationship, and I found myself growing closer to her with every conversation. I started imagining a future with her. She felt sorry about Claire, especially for the impact it had on George, Rhonda, and the kids. During our last chat, Marie brought up the idea of visiting us with her kids or having us come up to her place, a 2-story log house on 50 acres of forest north of Montreal, built in the late 1800s. I'd never been that far north, so it sounded intriguing. Whether anything comes of it, well, that's a story for another day.